Hello, welcome to Sunday Soulset with Jamil. Happy to have you guys all here today. Um, Incredibly grateful for another Sunday and an opportunity for all of us to hang out. Let me know where you guys are joining me from today. If you are joining me from the Astro community, put a rocket ship in the chat. If you are joining me from my YouTube community, just put YT in the chat. If you are a part of Owners Club, put OC in the chat. Would love to see where y'all are coming from. And if you are in sub 2, put a peace sign. Put the deuces in the chat for me, if you would. Amazing. Lots of Astros with us. Got some Gators with us. Some YouTube folks with us. Amazing. Well, for those of you who are new with us on these Sunday streams, this was something that I used to do exclusively for the Astro Flipping community, and we have since opened it up for everybody to join us on Sunday, where I share a specific topic that I'm researching for myself, and which is typically mindset or internal work related, right? And for those of you who know me, I spend a significant amount of time and resources on working on this part of my life so that I can uh, do better in my relationships, do better in my business, do better in how I respond day to day. And so it's always an amazing opportunity for me to share with everybody else the things that I have been working on for my own personal growth. And so this was a session that I would typically do with the Astro community exclusively, but now I've decided that it is for everyone. And so after this, these typically last an hour, and then I'll go and do a Q&A session with the Astro community. And then I'm back at, I believe it is 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time for Straight Outta Compton. So make sure you guys come back here at 4 p.m. for Straight Outta Compton, and we will all be hanging out then. So today's mindset talk is on a book that I've read by Marcus Aurelius called The Meditations, and on a specific topic on building resilience. So many of us, especially in this entrepreneurship journey, find ourselves coming face to face with obstacles. And obstacles are incredibly powerful if we know how to harness them correctly, right? They show us where we have an opportunity for growth. They show us where we are lacking in potentially some skill or some resource. And they're also an opportunity for us to give up. And that's where we find ourselves in a crossroads quite often, is when we get to the very difficult obstacle. How do we build the resilience to move forward and past or through that obstacle so that we can actually achieve, so we can get to that next plateau or that next phase in our life, or that next situation in our life where we can actually grow and level up. Now, the reality is that no matter what's going on in your day-to-day life, change is going to be inevitable. And so if you are fearful of change, then this is probably going to be a very uncomfortable conversation for you. And we'll get started in this right away. But for those of you who know me, there's always one thing that we'll do before we start these calls. I just wanted to give you an understanding of what the topic was. So before I start with this prayer, Nathan's right. We got 76 of you guys watching live right now, and it'll probably grow. I would ask that for anyone who has received any value from me, whether it be from these conversations or from any of the wholesale content, do myself and yourself and somebody else a favor and go hit that like button. Do it right now. Um, it is super, 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 super helpful for the algorithm. And then also somebody else who might not know me will get the opportunity to potentially see this video. And if they see it and it sparks an opportunity for them to grow, or it does something for them in their lives, then you did something that could actually affect somebody else's life today. So just by hitting that like button, just going and hitting that one thing right now, doing that little bit, it's the most helpful thing that you can do for me. It's the way that you can pay me back for the time and the effort that I'm putting into doing this for all of us. Cool. All right. So we will start this call the way we would any other, and that is with a prayer. And the reason for that is I truly believe that anything and everything that we want or need in our life finds its way to us through our source when we ask and take steps towards it. Now, if this makes you uncomfortable, no worries. Just mute me for 30 seconds because I'm going to do it anyways. But if you'd like to join me, here we go. Father God, we love you so much, Lord. Thank you for today. Thank you for opening all our eyes and giving us breath, for giving us the minds and the spirits to connect with each other. God, we're so grateful for that. Lord, we ask that you guide each of us to your purpose for our lives, so that the steps we take are your steps, the words we speak, your words, the actions we take, your actions. God, we ask that you guide us to those individuals that'll be of benefit to us, either through a financial gain or a lesson we need to learn. And we also ask that you deflect us from those individuals that would waste our time or bring us harm. Lord, for any of our family members here that are in need of any additional understanding of the concepts that we teach here, we just pray for perfect clarity in our minds. And for anyone suffering through any physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual pain, we just pray for perfect healing in our lives. And Lord, it is with humble hearts, and in your heavenly name we pray. Amen. All right. Stoicism by Marcus Aurelius. From the incredible book called Meditations, and we are talking on building resilience. So the first thing that we need to understand in looking at our lives and looking at the capacity for us to grow, face obstacles, overcome those obstacles, and grow as a result of them, we have to know that in life, change is going to be inevitable. Anytime that we are looking at our lives and starting to feel like we're in a good place, like things are all kind of lined up. Everything right now is feeling really good. You know, my business is going. I've got my relationship is firing on all cylinders. My health is firing on all cylinders. Everything seems to be going incredibly well. And then whap, you get smacked with it, right? You get hit with that situation. For me last year, it was a couple of situations. I got hit with a situation in my personal life, and then I also got hit with a situation in my health. My health situation was incredibly difficult because there was nothing that I could do about it, right? I woke up one day and I had numbness from the neck down, and my entire body felt as though it was on pins and needles. And I learned very quickly that I needed a very intensive spinal surgery. Otherwise, I was within a matter of weeks away from paralysis or death. And so even though I had been doing so much for my health, I'd been working out every single day. I'd been doing my best to eat healthy every single day, meditation, all of the things that I thought were helpful for maintaining a healthy lifestyle. It didn't matter, right? Change was going to happen. And even though I felt like all was well in my world, I got hit with bed rest. I got hit with a surgery, a very invasive surgery to that as well. And so anytime that we're sitting in our lives and we are hoping that things don't change, that everything that we're feeling and seeing right now remain the same, that is a very dangerous spot. So the first thing that we need to understand is that whenever things feel like they're super comfortable, whenever things feel like they're going extremely well, we need to be prepared. We need to be prepared for the inevitable change in circumstance that is going to come. Now, that doesn't mean that we need to get paranoid, right? We're not sitting here, on constant threat mode, just expecting for the other shoe to drop, expecting for our spouse to walk away, expecting for our health to deteriorate, expecting for our businesses to fail. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is we need to be absolutely prepared for things to change. right? And knowing that change is going to give us an opportunity for us to really meet that opportunity, meet that change, meet that circumstance, and to triumph over it, right? Now, how do we triumph over these inevitable changes that we will find in our lives? The first thing that we have to understand is that our perception, right? Our perception is under our control. So that's the first thing I want you to write down here in terms of what I gained from Marcus Aurelius's meditations on resilience, is that we are in absolute control of our perception. Now, everything that we experience in our lives is in relation to the perspective that we hold for it, right? And so if I see the fact that my spinal injury is debilitating and requiring me to have bed rest and taking me away from my business, if I harness myself in that frequency of the surgery or the injury as a negative, it will be exactly that for me, right? It'll keep me in that energy, it'll keep me in that space, it'll make me feel sorry for myself. It'll start giving me the excuse that I might want to hold on to not try and push through it, to not push my body, so that once I start to recover, I'm starting to actually rebuild the neurons, the nerves, and the muscles to be able to function normally, right? My perception, had it been super negative, would have probably led me down a pretty dark path. Instead, what I chose to have a perception of was that this was going to give me an opportunity for rest. And as soon as the rest was over, it was giving me an opportunity to strengthen myself beyond where I was currently, right? So when we recontextualize, right, it gives us the opportunity to see whatever it is that is in our world right now from a new perspective, from a new angle. Now, how we are able to control this is by being extremely mindful of our thoughts, right? Being mindful of our thoughts. And this is a lifelong exercise to be mindful of the things that we're thinking. But if you can start to create space, right? A little bit of space between the thought that you have and the emotion that is corresponding to it, you give yourself an opportunity to make a change. Right now, quite often what ends up happening is our thoughts are produced by our belief structures, right? So if I believe that when something happens to me in my health, that it's a negative, that it is making me worse, that it is putting me in a bad situation, then the thoughts that I'll think are going to correspond to that belief structure, and the emotions that I'll feel will correspond with those thoughts, and then the actions that I will push through with are going to correspond to that emotion. And you guys can see how the belief structure, the corresponding thought, the emotion that it produces, and then the action that it gives me are all connected, right? So the goal is to or reimagine my belief structure around change, right? If I believe that change is bad, every time something changes, I'm going to feel like something's bad. But if I feel, or if I believe that change is good, change produces growth, change is exciting, change is an opportunity. If I make that my belief structure, then when something changes, the corresponding thought that's produced is different. And then the emotion is different. And the action that it produces is different. And so we need to change our underlying belief structure on what we see change as. So if you're one of those people that hates change, if you hate change, I used to be one of those as well. I would always feel like, man, I hate it when things change. I just love everything to be the same. I'm such a routine cat. I really am. Like I'm a very, very, very structured individual. And so people like me who have a lot of structure in their lives, when we're faced with a change, it can get really difficult. I've started to embrace that by changing the way that I believe, uh, by actually evolving what I think of change, recontextualizing what change means to me in my life, changing the association of things changing to be positive versus negative. All right. So that's the first thing I want you to take out of this. Number two, acceptance, radical acceptance of what is, right? This is something that a lot of us have a difficult time with, but really being honest with ourselves about what is actually happening right now, what is going on around us right now, and not looking at it from the perspective of our stories, right? Not hallucinating what we think is going on, and also not attaching an untrue rosiness or an untrue, uh, you know, uh, romanticism to the situation. In order for me to assess what's going on in my life or what's going on in any specific situation, I need to look at it from the reality of what is, not what I think it should be, not what I want it to be, not what it was, not what it could be, but what it is, right? And once we can accept what is, it allows us to really focus on the current situation or whatever that task may be with full presence, right? Because now I can actually look at whatever is happening and I can assess it for whether or not this is actually serving me in my life, whether or not I could release this, whether I need to do something about it, or whether I need to just give it some space and some time, right? What it will also allow me to do is detach, right? When I detach from any specific situation or any attachment to a specific outcome or a specific result, when I just detach from those results and I accept whatever it is as just being what it is, I'm free. I'm free of expectation. I'm free of the hallucination that life needs to be exactly the way I want it to be. Now, a lot of you in your entrepreneurial journeys, especially when we're first getting started, you look at your progress, you look at what's going on, or maybe, you're in your first deal and things don't go the way that you want them to go. And then all of a sudden you start to create these thoughts that are disempowering and then produce disempowering emotions. And then you eventually quit or you stop or you start to second guess yourself. And this is exactly the point where so many entrepreneurs give up, right? This is where we decide, you know what? I'm just way too attached to what's going on here. My ego can't seem to handle it when I don't get what I want. When things don't go the way I want them to go, my ego is so sensitive and it is so fragile that I'm unable to overcome this. I'm unable to learn from this, and I just need to give up. Now, I want you guys to think back to any situation or circumstance where this is what you did, right? And it's okay, without judgment, without looking at it from the perspective of it being a positive thing or a negative thing. When did you last give up on something, right? Whether it be a relationship, whether it be, an entrepreneurial feat, whether it be even a puzzle, whatever it is. Just when's the last time you gave up on something? And trace back to those moments of what made you give up. And you'll typically find that there was at some level an attachment to a result. And because you weren't getting a result that you expected or that you wanted, it became too much for you. And if you could have just taken that approach of being detached from the result, from accepting things as they are, so that you could give yourself the opportunity to grow more, maybe give yourself the opportunity to practice a skill or get better at something. Instead of allowing that to happen, what ends up happening is the ego just decides that this is too risky for you, that this is just too much for you, or it'll even start to produce lies. It'll start telling you things in your mind like, this isn't for you, or this was never meant for you, or this is meant for somebody else. And what will end up happening is those disempowering thoughts will create disempowered emotions, which will eventually make you quit at what you're doing. right? So the goal here is to be completely focused on the now, right? Enjoying the process, enjoying the thing that we are currently working on. And when we can sit in enjoyment and the thing that we're currently working on, and we can accept it for whatever it is, at whatever skill level we're at, right? At whatever level we meet this specific circumstance in, it gives us the opportunity for so much growth, right? And enjoyment. Because at the end of the day, right, we're not all supposed to be can you imagine if we were all just superstars at everything we did, right? How would we possibly have any excitement in the world if everybody was a Michael Jordan level basketball player, right? And they were all like these incredible, almost, you know, superheroes on the court, right? How would that be exciting? Because we wouldn't see where the human spirit would overcome, right? It would be at some point, at some level, it would truly be no fun to watch anymore, right? Because we want to see that. We want to see people improve. We want to see ourselves improve. If you were incredibly good at everything you did, or like the best at everything you ever tried, then you would miss so much opportunity for joy. As we get better, as we overcome obstacles, as we grow, we find immense satisfaction from that process. So accepting what we can't change and accepting what things are in their current state is one of the best ways for us to build resilience in our lives. Now, the third thing that we can do is practice living in a current emotion, right? Whatever your current emotion is, whatever your present emotion is, and it doesn't have to be a positive emotion. Sometimes we just need to be in whatever state we're in, right? If you're going through a tough time in your life and you're grieving for whatever reason it is, if we don't meet that grief and sit in that emotion, we'll have to pay for that at some point. You will always have to feel the emotions you're running away from, whether you feel them now or you feel them later. And so, knowing that we'll always have to pay the piper, that we're always going to have to feel the emotion that we're running away from, does it not make more sense for us to get it over with so that we can move on and grow in whatever we're supposed to learn right now, rather than pushing it away or numbing ourselves or running away from that emotion? When we can sit in that present emotion, it gives us the opportunity to really see things for what they are, right? For instance, you could be in a relationship with somebody. Let's just say it's like a significant other or even a business relationship. And maybe this relationship isn't the best thing for you. Maybe right now the relationship has actually run its course, and it's the best thing for everybody involved for the relationship to end. But if you are romanticizing that relationship, or if you are attaching an untrue or a not full view of what the reality of this emotion is that's coming from it, what's going to end up happening is you're going to be making moves and making decisions based on lies. And when we do that, when we make moves and we make decisions based on things that aren't true, the accompanying result is never to our benefit. Right? When we lie to ourselves, when we actually romanticize a situation in our head and we think, "Oh my God, but this person, they're so much like this, and I love when they do that, and I love when this happens," and we completely negate all of the things that weren't serving us, that were also a part of that situation. Right? We then make decisions and we take action based on things that are not true. And this also happens in business relationships, right? A lot of times when we hire people that we like our friends or family members, we project the positive associations that we have with these people based off of the things that they give us in our relationship personally. right? But they might be really terrible business partners. They might be really bad for you in a professional way because they're not meeting you at your level. They're not coming in and doing the work that they're supposed to be doing. Maybe they're dropping the ball, right? But you're romanticizing this relationship, and you're saying you're attributing all of the things that you love about this person uh, to their performance, which isn't real. Right? Because yeah, it's cool that you like this person, and yeah, it's cool that they're great at some level with you, and it's really fun when you guys get to hang out, and it's really fun when you guys go and do these things or whatever it is. But when you guys are sitting down and doing work together, they never show up, or they show up, they half-ass it, right? They're constantly needing to be reminded. They're constantly needing to be motivated. They're not disciplined. They're not doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing in that work relationship. And because you're not being honest about what they're doing, because you're romanticizing the relationship, now you're making decisions based off of things that are not facts. And when we make these decisions and we push forward on lies, the corresponding result will never be to our benefit. So I need you to think about it. Where are you romanticizing relationships right now in your life? Are you doing it in your personal life? Are you doing it in your business life? Are you doing it in your relationship to your business? Are you doing it in your relationship to your job? Right? We have relationships to everything that's in our world. Right? And a lot of times we do this for our own, to the thing that we go and do as a W-2. We think, oh, but I like this one thing about my job. I like this other thing, one thing about my job. And I like this one other thing about my job. And then everything else is not good, right? Everything else is hard. Everything else, deflates us, or deflates me, or makes me feel like I shouldn't be here. But again, because I'm romanticizing, because I'm putting this false belief, this false narrative on what this all is, I am making a decision to stay in a situation that isn't serving me. And what if you do this for 30 years? What's the result? What happens? Think of that. Number 4, being able to cultivate humility and empathy, not only for others, but for ourselves, right? When we want to create and generate more resilience as a human being, we need to understand that humility and empathy are our friends, right? When we can see situations and faults in others and in ourselves, again, without criticizing them, but for just assessing them for what they are, it gives us an opportunity for growth. It gives us an opportunity to develop, to actually grow our skill set, right? When I'm in a relationship with somebody, or when I'm watching somebody, let's just say they're somebody on my team, and I think that they've got a ton of great skills, but at this one thing they're they keep messing up. They keep dropping the ball on this thing. If I not reaching, or if I'm not able to see this relationship from a perspective of humility, right? Where I understand that this happens to me as well, that sometimes I'm not showing up with my best self. Sometimes I'm not able to come to the table with everything, or every resource, or every aspect of myself that's necessary to, you know, function at the highest level. If I can have empathy for that, knowing that this is a normal thing for a human to have happen, it allows me the space not to overreact, right? However, if I'm also able to understand that there are moments, not only in myself and in other people, where there is that sweet spot, that opening to have an honest conversation, right? To allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to share with others how we've been in that same circumstance and the things that we did to overcome, right? How did we handle uh, whatever that situation might be? How did we handle when it was difficult for us to show up to work on time? Or how did we handle when it was difficult for us to, get over a relationship? Or how did we handle when I'll use a personal example for myself. Decades ago, I drank too much, right? I definitely had an interesting relationship with substance abuse in my early years. So because I know that, because I'm able to speak to that from an empathetic position, because I've been there. If I'm talking to somebody who I know has a tremendous amount of skills and they're struggling, I can be empathetic to it, and I can humble myself to remember what it felt like to be there. But I can also provide skills and opportunities for that person to be able to overcome, and I can help walk them across that line. But it's not unless I can be empathetic with them to know that I have been here before, that what I see in them, I also see in myself. That what I see as their struggle, I have had as my own struggle. And by being able to have the humility to accept that and to share that, to be vulnerable enough to share that, it provides an opportunity for relationships to strengthen. And it also provides an opportunity for you to help another individual see their potential, right? Where could they go? Where could they go? And this happens, friends, when we listen more, when we speak less, when we pay attention to other people's perspectives and opinions, and we honor those, right? When we are able to see the possibilities in what others are saying and not just being stuck to what it is that we want as an agenda. And this is why the community in astro flipping in sub 2 is so powerful, because people are able to remember what it was like to just get started in the business. Why are there so many people in the astro flipping community and so many people in the sub 2 community willing to turn around and help the person behind them? Because they remember what it was like. And if you remember, when Pace and I first started doing this ourselves, one of the first reasons we even started in building these communities was the remembrance of what it felt like to be alone in the beginning. When we were by ourselves, when there wasn't anybody there to be helpful to us, we remembered that. We have empathy for that, and we can humble ourselves to that situation in that position. And because we're able to do that, we've given other people the permission to do the same. And then now you see guys like Nathan Harris, who you see in the chat, putting on his own calls, constantly there, being available for other people within the community, putting his hand out and leaving it there for as many as of those who want to hold it and join him and move in the same direction. That's what having humility and empathy will gain. Number 5, practicing gratitude. I say this over and over and over and over and over again, and I can't stress this emotion enough. But when we are practicing gratitude, we give ourselves a magnetic effect, right? When we are able to raise our emotional state to a place of gratitude, we attract more opportunities to be grateful. Right now, what are some ways that you guys are practicing gratitude on a day-to-day basis? It's not just, it's one thing. It's one thing to say, I'm grateful all the time. How many times do I run into people and I say, hey, do you have a gratitude practice? Oh, yeah, I'm always thankful. I'm always thankful. I practice gratitude every day. Well, what specifically are you doing? Do you have a gratitude journal? Are you waking up every single morning and thinking or talking or saying out loud 2, 3, 4, 5 things that you're grateful for that day? Are you acknowledging your own accomplishments and achievements? Because those are important. We're taught in society that it's not polite to be proud of ourselves, to be joyful at what we've accomplished, to feel like we've achieved something. We've been told, we've been conditioned by our teachers, we've been conditioned by our parents, we've been conditioned by our friends and society to not talk about these things, to not share these things with others, to not be proud of ourselves, to not feel accomplished. Why? Why? Why is it that society has taught us to dim ourselves? For what purpose? Typically, it's for the benefit of others and not to feel like they're not doing anything. Exactly, Travis. Envy. right? It's to keep people from being envious. But again, that's not your problem, right, Travis? It's not my problem. If you're being envious because of something that I've accomplished or I've achieved, that's not my problem. That's yours, right? So when we give ourselves the permission to be grateful for what we've achieved, we open ourselves up for the opportunity for more achievement. Let me say that again. When we give ourselves the permission to be grateful, to actually be proud of ourselves for what we achieved, we open ourselves up for the opportunity for more achievement. We have to unlearn this idea that we're showing off, that we're being too much. We need to abandon that. When we've done well, and we deserve to feel that accomplishment, sitting in that frequency and being grateful for what we were able to do will allow more of that to find its way to you. And so if any of you right now are thinking of a situation in your life where you did well, where something good happened, how often does this happen in our business and wholesale, right? I see it dozens of times. We've got people in the Astro community and they'll send me a DM. They'll say, Jamil, I feel so flipping great, man. Thank you so much. The things you taught me have done, this and this. And they'll send me a picture of $40,000, $40,000 check. And they'll say, I don't want to post this in the group because I don't want people to feel bad. I don't want people to think I'm showing off. Wow. What a disgusting thing that society and people have made us feel for ourselves, that when we do well for ourselves, that when we do for ourselves what others would like to do for themselves, that when we have these examples of winning, when we have these examples of summiting and accomplishing a goal, that we're supposed to dim that. We're supposed to bury it under the mountain so that we don't make others feel bad. Think about the last time you did that. Think about the last time you dimmed yourself. And it's not to feel bad about right now. I'm not saying this to you so that you can sit there and kind of, say to yourself, oh, that's crummy. I messed up. No, it's just to be aware. It's being aware of it. It's knowing that this is something that happens, that we've been conditioned this way. And I don't know where this conditioning came from in your life. Maybe it was a parent, could have been a teacher, it could have been a friend, it could have been, somebody in church, whatever. It doesn't matter where it came from. It's there. And it's blocking your blessings. It's keeping you from sitting in that frequency of accomplishment, and it's keeping you from then letting that accomplishment lead to gratitude. Be happy for what you've done. That's good. Own it and be grateful for it so that you can open the door for more of that to happen. Number 6, the 6th way that we can make ourselves resilient is embracing adversity as an opportunity for growth. All right. Embracing adversity as an opportunity for growth. Right now, all of us have in our lives, in our worlds, an obstacle. I have obstacles. I got an obstacle in my life right now. I've got a couple of them, right? And in the chat right now, I need to hear how many of us can recognize a current obstacle in our lives. If you have an obstacle in your life right now, put an O in the chat. Let me see that. If there's an obstacle in your life right now, let's bring it to the surface instead of burying it down. Thank you, Michelle. Yes, we've got obstacles, right? So many of us have them. Whatever that is, whatever that obstacle is. Now, how many of us have been looking at that obstacle as our biggest problem, right? That's the biggest problem that I have right now in my life is this, whatever that is. And how have you been describing it? How have you been describing it to others? And how have you been describing it to yourself? What Marcus Aurelius said is an impediment to action advances action. I'll repeat that. An impediment to action advances action. So I'm actually not in a position to advance myself unless there's something in front of me that forces it, that pushes me there. Right? As people, we get so we get very easily stuck in comfort. Right? It's so easy for us to rest in comfort. And we're supposed to when it's time for rest and comfort. Right? It's totally okay. It's totally okay when things are comfortable. It's totally okay to rest in that for the moment. It's totally okay to enjoy that. But when the obstacle presents itself, the obstacle is the way. Right? So an impediment to action is what advances action. Without that obstacle, you don't move. You don't. So instead of looking at that obstacle and that impediment to action as a negative, instead of giving it something or giving it the power to give us anxiety, why not give it the power to show us what we're made of, to produce within ourselves new creativity? Why not see that as the ingredient, the necessary ingredient to our growth? So that every time a new obstacle finds us, we become happy. Every time a challenge or a situation needs us to rise up, it makes us excited instead of giving us anxiety. Now, that change in the emotional state that we provide, that we bring to that situation, is how we're going to excel through the situation. If you enter any situation with anxiety in your belly about it, if you're like, oh my God, I have to do this and it's giving me so much anxiety and it's like, I feel like I'm going to, mess it up. When we approach impediments to action with that energy, then the work that we do when we're trying to overcome that obstacle is charged with that negative energy. But when we see these obstacles as fun, when we see these obstacles as positives, and we see them as our opportunity to be creative, to grow, to be better, when we can charge the obstacle with that positivity, now the work that we're doing in overcoming it is charged with that same energy. How much farther do you think you're going to get with that than the other? Now, one of the things that we tend to do when we have problems or obstacles in our lives is we love telling people what the problems are, right? We love to tell people what's going wrong. We love talking about it. I'm only saying this from my own personal examples, my own life, right? When I had my injury, a part of me loved talking about it. It was messed up, man. Like, even though I knew that I was getting attention, and I was getting attention for like not something that was like fun, right? A part of me, even though it wasn't healthy or good, there was a part of me that enjoyed talking about it. It was like I found some identity through the infirmity, right? I found an identity through that problem. Now, when I find identity in the problem, what is that robbing me of? It's robbing me of understanding what skills are necessary in order for me to overcome it. When I identify with the problem, it robs me of the opportunity to develop the skills that I need to overcome it. So when we have these problems in our lives, when we have these situations that find us, what we really need to do is we need to ask ourselves, what skills will I gain by overcoming this situation? Right? What experience am I going to gain by overcoming this obstacle? And when we can actually attach to that, right? By knowing, well, as soon as I'm through this, I'm going to have gained this skill, this skill, this skill, this skill. For me, let's just talk about my neck again. When I overcome this surgery, when I overcome the all of the things that were going on with me neurologically, I'll know that my body will be so much stronger. I'll know that my neck will be so much more, will have such a much better structure in it. I'll know that my spine will be more protected. I'll know that my body will have an additional 20 years of opportunity to thrive and to continue to provide life to me. Instead of me looking at it like, oh, poor me, I was in the hospital for, a month. Oh, poor me, I had to, walk around with the neck brace on for a couple of months. Oh, poor me, I couldn't exercise for two months because of that. Or sure, I could sit in that energy of poor me, but I could look at it the other way and I could say, this is such an incredible thing because this is what I gained from it. These are the skills that I gained from it. One of the skills that I gained from having that was proving to myself that nothing could hold me down. A lot of you don't know this, but I had a mastermind the same week that I had that surgery. I was scheduled to be at an astro flipping mastermind on the Friday, and I had the surgery on Monday. The doctors told me there was like no chance of me being discharged from the hospital in time for me to make the mastermind. I didn't accept that. I told myself that, nope, I will not only be able to get through this operation, but I'm going to get to the mastermind, and I'm going to prove to myself, I'm going to prove to my body, I'm going to prove to the community that I will not stop, that I will not allow myself to fail. Now, was it the best decision for my health? Probably not. I probably should have stayed in the hospital, but by Thursday afternoon, I checked myself out of the hospital, and Friday morning I was at that mastermind. And I did my job. And I gained so much. I proved so much to myself by being able to show up. I proved that a surgery wasn't going to hold me down, that a personal situation wasn't going to hold me back. I proved to the community that when an obstacle finds you, your job is to seek the remedies to overcome it. The skills that I gained from that, the amount of confidence that I gained from showing up for myself in the community was absolutely incredible. And I'm still, to this day, holding on to that. I'm still holding on to what I proved to myself, that I don't quit, that I don't lay down, that I do show up, and that I show up consistently. Number 7, in building resilience, your happiness is 100% dependent on the quality of your thoughts. Your happiness is 100% dependent on the quality of your thoughts. Now, folks, I had this so wrong for so many years of my life. I thought that my happiness was outside of me, that I was going to gain my happiness from an accomplishment, from an achievement, from summiting something, from achieving something, from some kind of money, or living in some type of home, or owning some type of car, or my business generating some amount of revenue. I was constantly seeking my happiness outside of myself. And when I finally came to the understanding that it didn't matter what accomplishments I had. It didn't matter how much money I had. It didn't matter what home I live in. It doesn't matter what car I drive. It doesn't matter what my relationship status is. My happiness is my responsibility, and it is 100% determined by the quality of my thoughts. So if I'm in a bad mood, if I'm feeling unhappy, it's because I'm thinking unhappy thoughts. And if I'm thinking unhappy thoughts, it means that I'm having that my belief structure around whatever it is that I'm thinking has a flaw. Right? And so I need to evaluate that belief structure. And when you understand that your happiness is a quality of your own thoughts, it helps you regulate the way that you see things, right? And if you can give yourself the opportunity of that space between your thought and your emotion, it allows you the time to steer away from decisions that are not ideal. How many people have in the moment in a flash moment of emotional um craziness. I don't know what the right word would be. Um have we made a thing, and have we escalated something in our life or done something in our life that wasn't ideal? When you say the wrong thing to somebody that you really care about, right? And a lot of times we get this confused with authenticity, right? People are like, oh well, I was being true to myself in the moment. Well, let me tell you something about what I think about that. Okay. I think your authenticity is not about you being true to yourself in the moment and saying hurtful things to people just because you feel away because you're emotionally undisciplined. I think authenticity is being true to your values. True to your values, not true to what you're feeling in this specific moment right now, because what you're feeling in this specific moment right now could be coming from so many different things. You could be emotional from just being tired. You maybe are hungover. Maybe somebody said something to you. Maybe you caught a stream of consciousness from somebody else that you can't even understand or label, right? So allowing ourselves to be reactive emotionally is not being authentic. That is not being true to who you are, right? Being true to who you are is knowing what your value system is, knowing where your principles are, and always doing your best to be in that energy, to be in that state, even when it's not comfortable to do that. That's authenticity. Knowing that our minds can be very creative liars, right? What we'll typically do is our brain will produce thoughts that will skew ourselves to reinforce limits and judgments of others and ourselves. And so when we can give ourselves that emotional regulation, and if we can manage our emotions better, it gives us the time so that we can actually stimulate our intellect and we can find better solutions to problems from higher levels of mind. Right? So any of those people that you know in your worlds right now who are just off the cuff rude to folks, and they're labeling that authentic, get the hell away from those people. That is absolutely irresponsible and immature. That is not authentic. All right? That is just emotional immaturity. Number 8, in building resilience, we must nurture our inner serenity. All right. Anytime that you have a bias towards a thing or against a thing, what it does is it pulls you out of equilibrium. And when we pull ourselves out of equilibrium, we stain our spirit. So when we can provide ourselves with this inner tranquility, what'll happen is we give ourselves the opportunity to bring logic to a problem because we allow ourselves to bring space. Right? We bring space to the circumstance. We bring space to the situation. When you bring space to the situation, then it gives you an opportunity for logic to come in and to give you what the answer is. If you can have peace in yourself, you can actually have the emotional maturity to hold yourself back, to be able to allow time to work the situation out on its own. And so the key here is to channel our energy towards our own inner spiritual serenity. And how we do that, guys, I talk about this all the time, but through practices like meditation, through practices like breath work, through practices like journaling, through practices like mindfulness, mindful eating, mindful walking, mindful talking, listening. By doing that, we give ourselves the opportunity to cultivate that emotional serenity. Number 9, Always try to embrace the spiritually superior way. Now, I know this is going to be kind of a mind f for some of us, because you're going to say, "Well, I always want to. I always think I'm doing the spiritually superior thing." But what does that even mean, right? What is the spiritually superior way? Well, regardless of what your thoughts and regardless of what others are thinking, or even what you're thinking, if you can remind yourself to remain conscious in any circumstance, that is the spiritually superior thing. And let me give you an example. Right? You're in a situation with somebody in your work, and that person is a total butthead. And we actually had this in my own team for an entire month. We had an individual on my team who was being a complete turd to everybody on the team. And we could have approached this from a number of different perspectives, right? We could have said, okay, well, this person's being a turd, I'm going to be a turd back to them. I'm just giving them back what they're giving me. I'm not a pushover. I'm not going to let somebody steamroll me or somebody abuse me. I'm going to give them back exactly what they're giving me. That's the energy of the not spiritually superior way. Okay, when we lower ourselves, when we see somebody has gone unconscious and we become unconscious to meet them in that level of unconsciousness, that is a problem. It doesn't matter what somebody else is doing. It doesn't matter where somebody else is vibrating. Lowering yourself to meet them at that vibration is not to your benefit. Maintaining yourself and maintaining your equilibrium and maintaining your equanimity, becoming detached from that emotional drag, is what is going to give you the result you're looking for. Observe your thoughts, observe your emotions when people are unconscious around you. How does it trigger you? Where does it show up in your body? Do you feel it in your gut? Do you feel it in your chest? Do you feel it in your throat? Do you feel it in your head? Do you feel it all over? Where do you feel it? And then put attention on that. Instead of putting your attention on the other person, put your attention on where you're experiencing that trigger in your body and be mindful of it. And give yourself the opportunity to see it and observe it. That's it. That's it. But it serves nobody when we lower ourselves to a vibration to meet somebody else in a low vibration, because we feel like we are standing up for ourselves when we're doing. In fact, we are not standing up for ourselves when that happens. We are laying down when that happens. When we allow ourselves to go unconscious, we are laying down. And I've done it myself, guys. It's happened to me. I have been on a conversation with an individual. I did not ever expect to allow myself to go unconscious in this conversation, and it was one of the most eye-opening things that I've ever seen myself do, because I caught myself, and after it was done, I'm in this conversation and I'm not being nice, and they're not being nice, and we're not being nice to each other, and it bothered me for at least a month after that I allowed myself to go unconscious. But I gave myself the benefit of seeing that opportunity as a learning experience. And I can now pinpoint exactly where in my body I could feel myself going unconscious. And now when I feel that same trigger, I know it's time for me to walk away. I know it's time for me to give myself some space. Number 10 on building resilience in your life is refraining from focusing on the things that you don't have, but instead being grateful for the things that you do. So many of us have this idea that we need to continuously see the things that we want. Like, we got to go out there and go after the things that we want, because if we don't go after the things that we want, then we'll never have them. But what about putting that focus on the things that you've got? Your family, your friends, your health, the resources that you've got right now, and being truly grateful for them. When you give yourself gratitude and appreciation for the things that you have, you're opening yourself up for opportunities for more of that. Having that positive outlook on whatever your current circumstances in, it will actually reinforce abundance in your life. So, whatever is going on right now, whatever the circumstance, whatever that situation, find the things that you can be grateful for. Resilience is not something that happens overnight, it's a lifelong journey. We're all working on it. And there's going to be moments where I'm, at the bottom of the pit trying to pull myself out of it. And there'll be times where I feel like I have my footing. But whatever that is, I ask all of you for grace as we walk this journey in life together. I hope you guys got some benefit out of this. And if you guys did, again, only half of you have liked this live stream. I would ask that if there was any value that you gained from this, do me and yourselves that one little energetic exchange and just hit that like button. I appreciate it so much. And we'll be back here again next Sunday at the same time with a different topic. So, what I would love is at the end of this, if you could leave me a comment below on what you would like to see the subject matter of these mindset discussions to be. I'm happy to explore the range of what this world of understanding self is, understanding our minds and how we can optimize them for our benefit, for our futures. And I love researching new topics. So please leave me a comment, not on the live stream right now. When this ends, leave me a comment so that it's there. And let me know what subjects you'd like to hear. And maybe next Sunday, we'll be talking on that. I love all you guys. I hope you have a phenomenal rest of your week. Go enjoy the week. Kiss somebody that you love and be grateful for everything you have because we never know where we're going to be in the next moment. Take care. Astro fam, I'll see you on the Q&A next.